If you're getting a result over and over again that you don't like, then you're usually self-sabotaging. Because if every day you woke up and went to get your coffee and you stubbed your toe on the same piece of furniture, who's to blame there? Move the furniture.
Julia Pimsleur is the founder of Million Dollar Women. She went from a $30,000 investment to building a multi-million-dollar business.
In today's episode, you're going to learn what is truly holding women back from growing their business, from mindset to strategic thinking that you can do it now to grow your business and scale to $1 million and more if you want to.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate InvestHER Show. Julia Pimsleur, so excited to have you on the show today to get into making more money and scaling. So thank you so much for being here.
Let's do this. I'm excited for the conversation.
So Julia, your background is impressive. You took $30,000 of an investment and built a multi-million-dollar business. So what do you believe is the biggest obstacle holding women back from making more money as entrepreneurs?
Well, that's simple. The biggest thing holding women back is our socialization. We have not really been socialized to dream big, think big, delegate, outsource, do all the things that lead to massive success. We actually have been socialized to do the opposite, which is multitask, take more and more on, be self-sacrificial, do every tiny and huge thing in our business. And, I have the tough job as a scaling coach of telling women that, good job getting here, but everything you've done to get here is not going to get you there. And we have to start with undoing that socialization. It's really the mindset work. And then you can build the skills on top of that.
All right. For all the women freaking out right now, take a deep breath because we're going to dissect that during this episode. Okay. So we're not doomed, right, Julia? We're not doomed. We're not going to keep carrying.
And Liz, isn't that a little bit comforting to know? I didn't just become this type A person for no reason. I was raised, right? If you're a little bit smart and you're a little ambitious, people give you more and more responsibility and you start
to do. They're not dumb, right? Because we figure it out. But I think that women has worn this badge of honor that they are self-sufficient and can figure things out on their own. And that's their also Achilles heels. So where does it start? So if I am a high achiever woman, I'm conscious of that. I'm conscious that I am leading so many different things in my life and everybody comes to me for directions. I've built a successful business, but it's not sustainable because it's taking a toll on my health or in my lifestyle. That's not how I want to go. So where this person starts, like peeling the onions.
Well, I'm also a trained mindset expert, and I always start with, well, how is that serving you? Because if it wasn't serving you in some way, you would have stopped it by now. So usually you need an outside person, a therapist, a coach to help you unpack that and realize that maybe there's some very deep socialization from your family, from society, where you get some kind of a thrill or validation out of being so needed. I see this with moms too. I'm the mother of a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old. And I meet these moms who are so haggard and exhausted and their kids are running them ragged. And it's why are you doing this? There is another way to parent, but that must be serving them in some way that they feel the most needed and the most validated when their kids are coming to them 10 times a day and they're making the lunch and they're taking them to school and they're doing every single job. It's outsource and delegate. I took my kids to school 2 days a week. And the other 3 days, it was either my ex-husband or our nanny, our babysitter. And that way I could have a little time to myself, go to the gym, see a friend, right? So we make these choices all the time in our personal life, but also in our business. So I think it starts with looking in the mirror and saying, why did I build this life? And is it still working for me? And if not, maybe it's time to make a change.
I think, Andressa, what pops in my head too is the work that we did at Landmark. And, when you really start to say, okay, and Landmark Education's really a way to look at yourself inside and out.
Yeah, I've done the basic and the advanced course. So I love Landmark.
Yeah, you've done it all.
Yeah.
I love it. But because what's coming back for me is your strengths have a positive effect they also have a negative effect. So I like to help other people. It's part of my core. It's like core to who I am. Can that be overdone? Yeah. And not only can it be overdone, but then it becomes a negative quality where why am I so, why do I have to help everyone? What am I getting? I'm saying I'm exhausted, but what am I getting? And is that serving me any longer? I think that's the work. It's hard work to do that, but it's pretty important as we talk about making more money and what we are deserving of. So in terms of women like moving towards reaching, $1 million in revenue, which is a goal for a lot of women. Some women have surpassed that. And regardless of who's listening, right? Real estate investor, whatever your product is, revenue goals and profit is important for any business. What are other like first steps to continue to grow that revenue base for women or for men or whomever to get there? Like, what are those first couple steps they can take?
Well, sure. And if you're listening thinking, well, I don't even know if I want to get to $1 million. I'm not sure if that's meaningful to me. Well, let's just unpack why we are focused on $1 million at $1 Million Women, which is that one, it's a set of goals and exciting aspirational thing for a lot of women. Like, I'm making $1 million. I will tell you that when I wrote the book, my editor and I sat in her office at Simon & Schuster, and she said, do you think if we have the book called $1 Million Women, people will think it's wealthy women married to rich men being driven around in SUVs? And I was like, the fact that we even have to ask that question
is a problem.
We need more $1 Million Women, that those three words are not in the same sentence enough. So for a lot of women who come to us, they say, I always knew I wanted to reach $1 million. But it's also because to get to $1 million, you have to figure out the money making machine at the center of your business. You can hustle and grind your way to 100,000, even 500,000. But after that, if you don't have the right systems and processes and team, the very things that Andresa and Liz have been talking about here on this podcast, definitely go listen to the niche episode, the last one you guys did, then you cannot get to $1 million. No one gets to $1 million by multitasking, being stressed out, doing everything themselves, working until 2 a.m. That's not the road to success. That's the road to burnout, unfortunately.
I love that because it's partially is an excuse, right? Because they also, what would that mean to other people if they are very successful? And the reason why we say this, because it happens over and over again. When we meet women at our conference or different places that we go, they come and they say the following: I just have 5 properties. I'm just getting started. The latest one, hear me out on this. The latest one was like, I just dipped my toe on raising private money. I am at 10 million now.
What does that tell you, Andresa, about what's happening out there? What meaning do you make of that they're all just saying, I just?
I want to shake them, first of all, right? It's like, what are you talking about? Meanwhile, Joey here coming next to me, so I'm freaking killing it. I have 5 properties. And I was like, yeah, Joey, go forward. So there's a lot to unlearn, right?
That's the socialization. That's the very thing.
Exactly. And I don't think, Julia, that can be done on their own, because I don't think they're even aware of it unless another person care enough for them to point that out and to just bring awareness to the surface. I think there's a high level lack of awareness on what comes out of women's mind that is reflecting their mindset and where they're at. Not a long time ago, women could not, purchase a property or have a credit card. But the bottom line is, no matter what asset class women are investing, they are entrepreneurs. If they're selling popcorn, shoes, or real estate, building a business is sustainable. My question to you is, what are the pillars? What are the departments that they must have in order to build this sustainable business?
Yeah, we've been helping women get to 1 million in revenues and beyond for the last 8 years. And we've identified 4 things that you have to get right to get to 1 million in revenues. The first one is the one we're talking about right now. It's mindset. That's your foundation. You cannot build a $30 million mansion on quicksand. If you do, it will fall right through. And your mindset is the foundation of your business. So we always have to start there. Once you have the mindset in place, you've cleared out limiting beliefs, you've unpacked the socialization, you've made new goals for yourself and have people to hold you accountable. Again, why it's great to be in communities like yours. Then you move on to strategy. What is your strategy? I know, Liz, you said you recommended that people have a strategy session once a month and think about, hey, is this still working? Do we need to make tweaks? Should we double down on what works and maybe stop doing what's not working? You said in your 20s, you had all these different businesses and you were just super scattered, right? It made me think that a lot of women, at least in my world, are in their 40s and 50s. They're not in their 20s, so they don't have 10, 15 years to figure it out, right? Which is why we want to focus on these strategy sessions. So first mindset, then strategy, then it's money. Got to be able to manage the money, whether it's understanding how to collect more quickly, being really on top of the invoicing, usually using outsourcing and delegating, and also what capital do you need to grow? That's also not part of our socialization. Most women are not well versed in where to go get capital, whether that's bank loans, angel or venture capital. You know, there's so many different sources of capital, but that's something that you have to figure out is the money side. And of course, in your world, it's the financing also. So then the fourth thing is team. If it's just you, it's going to stay small, period. So learning how to hire the right people, enjoying managing, not seeing it as a burden. There's so many tried and true methods of having a team that is not only not draining, it's lifting you up. It's freeing you up to do the part of the business that you want. And that way you can focus on what I like to call your genius work. Because everybody has parts of the business they don't love, right? For me, I don't love the bookkeeping. I don't even love doing the social media, although I do a lot of it. So all that is outsourced and delegated. So I can focus on what I love to do, which is teaching and marketing. Those are the two things I love most. So have you even asked yourself, if you're listening, what's my genius work? What's the thing I would do all day, every day, even if I wasn't getting paid? And then how do I outsource and delegate the rest? So let's recap. Mindset, strategy, money, and team. If you can get those four things right, you can build $1 million business and then some.
Let's dissect the delegation piece because I think there is a misconception going on. So a lot of women in our community believe that they need to delegate things that they're not capable of doing only, right? And then it becomes like, well, I'm capable of doing all of it, so I'm going to do it. So what's the point? So where do they start on the delegation piece? How can they make like a quick self-assessment? Should I be doing it or not? Besides their core genius, right? When it comes down to how they can have this like check mark. If I check those marks, it's on me. If I don't, it needs to get to somebody else's plate. What are those questions they should ask themselves?
Yeah, we talk a lot about delegation in $1 Million Women. And in the book, I have a whole chapter on it. And we since have created a tool that I have for free on my website at millionwomen.com, where you download this spreadsheet that guides you through a process. It's called Delegate Your Way to the Top. And it helps you assess in a very short period of time, where am I spending my time? And what are the things that only I can do? And what are things I can start to delegate and outsource? Because to your point, Andresa, if you're good at everything, then you're going to stay scattered and doing all the things. When in fact, there's always pieces of what you do, even if you don't delegate the entire task, right? Like with bookkeeping, there are certain people I still pay myself, but I don't reconcile the checks. I don't collect the invoices. I don't remind people to turn in their invoices, right? There's a whole piece I don't do anymore. So this spreadsheet, Delegate Your Way to the Top, and it's free, will help you get started. If you're listening and you're like, I think I need to delegate, but I'm not even sure where to start. I would say start with this little assessment.
I want to go back to the strategy point because you shared about four of those. What are some questions that you can offer, especially right now when it comes to real estate investing, right? People are asking the question, not just what property I should buy, but what strategy should I have to thrive, right? So what questions in general, doesn't have to be real estate related, but what questions in general could be strategic questions, those listening that can say, okay, am I headed towards the right direction? And, feel good about that progress. So I think that's huge. And I don't think people do enough of that strategic work. So questions, tools, what would you recommend there?
Well, I'd love to hear what you do in your strategy sessions, Liz, but I'll share something first. So what I like to do is have women who are looking at their strategy pick 5 people in the space that they admire. It could be in your space or in an adjacent space. Maybe like when I had my language teaching business for young children, the business I built and sold, I looked at, robotics for kids, math programs, because we were the only foreign language teaching program, but parents were buying lots of other things for young kids. So those were good comparables. So you make a spreadsheet, you put the 5 companies in, and then you have columns. And it's like, what are they charging? How much are they making? You can't always tell how much they're making, but if you go listen to interviews or podcasts, sometimes they ask them, right? Or they introduce them saying, oh, this $10 million business or $100 million portfolio. And then you really study their business model and write it up, because the power of having it all on one spreadsheet is that then you can start to really compare and see, well, what of these things am I doing? I always like to tell my coaching clients, what you sell should be original, but how you sell should not be. There are tried and true ways of selling that are right there, available, working. When I had my language teaching company, Little Pim, we were a little guy at first, but we used to study Disney because we figured, well, Disney spends about 90 million a year on strategy and marketing. And so we would look at what they were doing and say, oh, hey, they just released this whole line of plush toys to go with this show. We should have a line of plush toys. So we don't have to create everything from scratch in our business. We can learn from what's working and just get a little more systematic and organized about studying it. And that way, when you're at 2 a.m. scrolling on your phone and you find some competitor, you just throw it on the spreadsheet, right? And you have a place to track all that.
When women hear the word scaling, right, depending on where they are on the pendulum, that there are so many that are scaling so fast that is not sustainable to them, and they don't have the solid pillars to hold that. And on the other side, there is super cautious women. They're like, I don't even know. How can I add another line item on my schedule, considering what's going on here? Either way, it's not serving a sustainable business, right? And many people think about scaling the current chaos. So when do you think women should say, I am in a good position to scale? How they can evaluate what they currently have and make sure that that is set for success?
Well, every company is scalable. We sometimes think of only product companies as being very scalable, right? Maybe if you invented, a line of yoga clothing or, tea or coffee, that's scalable. But the truth is there are services businesses that scale to 20 million, 50 million, 100 million. So real estate entrepreneurs are no different than any other services business. You only have a few choices about how to do that. You can have a better team so that you can focus on your genius work and they can do a lot of the rest. You can train people in your method. A lot of real estate companies have done that, right? They have a specific way of doing business and they train their people in that secret sauce. Or you can partner with other companies so that you're benefiting from the aggregated audience of those companies. And there's never really the best time to scale, frankly. I think it's a little bit like having kids, right? Like, is it ever the right time to have kids? No, I'm not making enough money.
No, I still think that was not the right time.
Right? Exactly. You don't regret it once you've done it. And I don't know any women who have decided to scale who've regretted it. Now, if they haven't done the mindset work, they can self-sabotage and kill the whole thing, right? The biggest
hold on a second. So they cannot blame other people. Let's dissect into that a little bit, the sabotage piece. All right, Julia. So you're talking about self-sabotage. How do I know I'm doing it?
If you're getting a result over and over again that you don't like, then you're usually self-sabotaging. Because if every day you woke up and went to get your coffee and you stubbed your toe on the same piece of furniture every day for 5 days in a row, and you went around limping and you couldn't put on your shoes and you were in so much pain, who's to blame there? Like, move the furniture.
The table, Julia.
Exactly. The table did it to me. So, and again, that is the hardest part, is just getting honest with ourselves and saying, okay, what am I bringing to this? And then the big question I always ask women is, well, how's that working for you? If you don't mind stubbing your toe every day, if you're fine to walk around with your toe throbbing, then keep doing it. Go for it. You don't really need any help. Enjoy, right? But if you're like, no, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of feeling exhausted. I'm sick of feeling overwhelmed. I'm sick of being the one everybody's coming to. I'm not even making the kind of money I want to be making while doing all these crazy things. Then it's time to make a decision. And it really does start with the decision. I'll share with you guys that I had a woman in my community who said to me, I really want to scale up my social media, but I already have so little time. I don't know how I can start making reels and doing Instagram. And, it's just always at the bottom of my list. And Julia, I noticed that you're every single day practically on Instagram, on LinkedIn, posting, multiple things. Like, how do you do that? And I said, it's very simple. I made the decision about 5 years ago that that's not my job. And once you make that decision, then you start to figure out, okay, well then whose job is it, right? And I didn't start with a full-time person. I started with a recent grad from college, 23 years old, coming over to my house a couple days a week, filming me. And the next thing you know, we have content to post every day. But guess what? If she doesn't come in, I don't just say, oh, well then I'll do it myself, because it's not my job.
I love that. What that's reminding me of, Julia, is that like if I'm the person who literally just keeps stubbing my toe, right? And I keep doing it 5 days in a row, that's one thing. But then I'm in a community and I'm around other women and they're like, Liz, you keep stubbing your toe. And I'm like, you're right. I know I'm doing that, but until they actually call me out or call me up and have that kind of camaraderie, I'm not able to really be aware of it. My point in saying that is the knowing is not enough. The knowing is just the one piece of it. We talk a lot about knowledge plus community equals confidence, because you're pulling the confidence from other people. I do things by myself. And then until Andressa's like, listen, hey, this is what's coming. This is what I see. Are you okay? I'm like, that's a great point. I just a blind spot. So I think it's a lot of pressure for women to have to figure it all out by themselves. And we need to stop doing that. Even stubbing our toe literally every day. I think that is exactly why, communities like ours as well, Julia, right, exist, because it is about the camaraderie and like, hold on. Other women are doing this. I can do it differently, right? So I don't have to keep stubbing my toe.
Yeah. And sometimes hearing someone else share their story of what they had to change in their business makes you realize, oh, I need to make that change too. But the truth is you kind of have to be in a fair amount of pain to change. Nobody likes to change.
True.
Change is really hard.
True.
I'm a change coach and I don't like to change, right? So I get it. But back to the stubbing toe analogy, maybe the first day you're like, oh, that was annoying. And you move on and you make your coffee. The second day, oh, I stubbed my toe in that same place yesterday. I really need to move that furniture. Third day, wow, this is getting annoying. Fourth day, my toe really hurts because I've stubbed it, all these days in a row already. Most people don't make the change until they're in so much pain that they have to. Because again, we don't like change. So often we have women come to us who want $1 million business, but the business is kind of working, like they're making maybe 400,000 and they're not in enough pain to make the changes they need to make to have $1 million business. So that's again, where if you're listening, I'm wondering like, how do I make some big changes in my life? Maybe get connected with what it's costing you to stay this way. Not just you, your family, your friends, your future, right? How are you going to build this successful future if you're not willing to make some big decisions and make some big changes, as hard as that is? And I know it is because I had to make those changes myself in my first business.
So Julia, what I'm hearing is that for the folks that are really in pain, maybe change is the only option, right? Because there's so much in pain there. The women that are in a comfortable position is not so painful. Therefore, they're very comfortable there. So for them, it's like, it's actually when, I don't know if that you experienced that, they go to another trap that is like, I should be grateful for what I have right now. And I shouldn't be wanting more of my life. That's one of the biggest traps that we've seen in our community. They're very successful women. They know about delegation. They know about building a team. They know that. And there is a trap there that they feel.
Well, the trap is they're too comfortable and they're afraid that wanting more or going bigger with their business would be almost like tempting the fates. Like, I already have so much. Is that the trap? I'm trying to understand.
I'm trying to understand in their point of view if they don't want to do it because they don't feel confident that they're going to be able to break the cycle.
Interesting.
And
Or
they
maybe
don't have
people will
time.
judge them too. Sometimes women are afraid of other people judging them, especially if you come from a community that there isn't a lot of money, and then suddenly you're the one making a lot of money, it can feel like it really separates you from the people you love. And again, this is the internal work, right? The foundation that has to be done, because the tools and tricks and ways of making more money, they're all out there, right? We've all seen people who we think are not as smart as we are making tons and tons of money. So why are they able to do that? It's because they don't have the same thought patterns that we do. Right? It always goes back to the thought patterns. Once I hit the multi-millions and then wrote my book and decided to become a coach, I called my coach and said, what do you think I should study if I want to help thousands of women to grow multi-million-dollar businesses? And she said, study mindset. And that's when I went and got trained in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Because if you don't change the thought patterns, then you're just going to keep getting the same results over and over again. Your thoughts lead to beliefs. Beliefs have emotions attached to them, either positive or negative emotions. Depending if you have the positive emotions or the negative, you'll take action accordingly. Either take a ton of action or very little action or sabotage yourself. And then you get those results. It's called T-Bear, T-B-E-A-R. Thoughts lead to beliefs. Beliefs lead to actions, lead to results, with the emotions driving everything.
And many times, right, from my trauma therapist to we're working on firing some routes and shutting down other routes, patterns that no longer serve me, don't even exist, but my body still fire in those locations. So for women, like, it's not just you're thinking about scaling, it's also you're thinking about how do you make decisions, how do you react to people, all of those, all above. I encourage you guys to do an exercise about being aware when you're triggered. It's not about that person. It's about what that person is making you feel that reminds you of something that needs some work on you. So for all of you, I would like to hear if you have some stories, bring to the Facebook community, because we want to, above anything else, bring awareness to your unique situation, so we can support you overcoming it and moving forward. But it starts within you, literally within you.
And what you guys are doing is so important at InvestHER, to give women a place to talk about these things with each other, a safe space to explore these concepts. We have to remember that the business world was invented by and for men. So we've inherited this whole world where you're not supposed to be vulnerable. You're not supposed to talk about what's working. But there's so many more women in business now. We have a chance to change the way we show up as business leaders and be more authentic and be more vulnerable, and maybe be able to say, I want to make a ton of money, but it kind of scares me. Right? And have you ever had those thoughts? That is one of the most powerful things you can do, is just speak your truth and own it and get some help, and then go on and build that multi-million-dollar business, if that's what you even want. It might not be.
So important, right? To stay true to ourselves and also to share that with others. Julia, where can the ladies listening learn more about you?
I'm very active on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, just my name, Julia Pimsleur, Pimsleur, or milliondollarwomen.com. We have programs to help women scale up their businesses and learn more about sales and mindset. And I have the 2 books out, Million Dollar Women and Go Big Now. This was such a great conversation. Thanks for having me, Liz and Andresa. I loved it.
Thank you. So all this information you guys can find on our show notes. Julia, now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 questions. And the first one is, what's the most powerful book you ever read?
I'm going to say Desire Map by Danielle Laporte. And it's a great one to do as a little mini retreat with yourself. I sometimes take myself on a 3-day Caribbean beach holiday, and I bring that book and I fill it out almost every year, where it asks you, what are your goals and what are the feelings behind those goals? And that's an amazing exercise to give you clarity and get you jazzed up for whatever you're trying to do in life.
Second question, what's the most powerful routine that you do to create a financially free and balanced life, whatever balance means to you?
I think meeting with my bookkeeper twice a month is my best practice. I started that about 5 years ago when I realized I don't love the bookkeeping accounting side of the business, but it's so essential for growth. And that just keeps me on top of every single aspect of my finances, from payables, receivables, what's the plan over the next 6 months. So yeah, meet with your bookkeeper or accountant on a regular basis if that's not the part you love.
There we go. Last question. Which women, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
You would think I'd have a ready answer for that, right? As a woman coach, there are so many women who inspire me. I'm going to go with Martha Stewart because she has written 90 books. I saw her speak at a Bloomberg conference, and
I didn't know that.
90 books. She's maybe more by now. Still thriving, very resilient. Has taken some hits, has come back, and it just seems to have incredible joie de vivre and keeps putting out incredible products and reinventing herself. So that really inspires me.
Awesome. Julia, thank you so much for being on our show and sharing your wisdom with our community.
My pleasure. This was a great conversation. And to everyone listening, best of luck going big.
Thank you, Julia.